I'm Shirley Paulson, and I invite you into one of the many conversations I've had with Arthur Dewey, the West Star editor of my book, Illuminating the Secret Revelation of John, Catching the Light. The questions that come up from reading both this ancient text and my book about it are both broad and deep. So we turn the spotlight on one of these many thought-provoking topics. Going back to this knowing thing again, which is again, is this gnosis or is this knowledge? Is it spiritual? What is going on? I think that it'll help us to think of the ancient world and also our own world if we can appreciate the fact that gnosis is not a mark of superiority that you mentioned before, but I think it brings us into kind of the way our Christian world has taught ourselves about how to judge books that talk about gnosis. Like, we tend to think that the people who believe in gnosis are people who think of themselves as being superior, that they have gnosis and other people don't have it. But this book isn't claiming some do and some don't. Perhaps there are some of these early books that do say some people have gnosis and some people don't. But in this case, it has more to do with your own choice of thought. And so everyone has a choice of exercising gnosis or not exercising it. But what do you think about this struggle we have with not wanting to think about it because it's an arrogant little private group of thinkers?
Well, we must remember how gnosis gets a bad name. Namely, it gets a bad name for people who don't like certain people. And the word Gnostic then becomes a naughty word. And we remove Gnostics from our church. But that's not where these people are coming from. I do not think that most people who would be considered Gnostic in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th centuries are talking about being superior. I think they're valuing experience. And as we know, everyone's experience is unique. It's different. Unfortunately, in the ancient world, difference was also seen as an advantage over someone. And in fact, the Romans prided themselves in being different from the conquered peoples. The Christological debates, in some ways, are examples of trying to demonstrate the difference of this Christ. And it's really an attempt to claim superiority. Jesus never did. Jesus never claimed superiority. Paul, in fact, his insight is that God accepts the one who has no advantage. And that's what he preaches. That didn't stop the Corinthians from trying to gain an advantage over one another. And Paul is at great lengths to say, it doesn't work that way. The Spirit of God cannot be quantified. That you all share in the same breath of God and all contribute in each one's way. You don't have to repeat. You don't have to copy. And I think most people who in the 2nd century who would be later called a Gnostic, they're not, I don't think they're trying to be better or trying to be different. They're simply dealing with experience. They don't even have the word experience, but they're dealing with their life, its ups and downs. They're dealing with recognition that they are facing powers and condition beyond their control, both within and without. And they're taking that all seriously. And they begin to have some insights into how you can untie a lot of the knots that you seem to be involved in. And is that an advantage? Well, yes and no. It's not really an advantage over others because you're not thinking that way. You're in fact trying desperately to figure out, how do I get out of this? And when I do, I have, you might say, a way of further loosening things.
I think what you just described is so important to also understand the meaning of healing itself, because healing would look like an advantage that other people don't have. And it would make them mad to say, what makes you think you have magical powers that I don't have? But it doesn't work that way. It's somebody who's desperately looking for an answer and finding a way that's useful to them. And they would love to share that good news with other people, but it's not like they think of themselves as superior. They're just simply realizing that they have gained something that they want to share with others because they've needed it.
Yeah, and we see this in a lot of the self-help books today, where somebody has a breakthrough and sort of wants to share it. Well, whether they're capitalizing on it or not, I'm not sure, but what is clear to me is that you can't repeat the same procedure with everybody. It just doesn't work.
You have to find your own gnosis. Thanks for joining us and thinking about one of these deeper questions with us as we turned the spotlight on one of the many challenging topics associated with this ancient text. If you haven't read my book yet, Illuminating the Secret Revelation of John, Catching the Light, it's published by Cascade Books and is available from your favorite bookstore or from the website at earlychristiantexts.com/book. And be sure to let me know if you'd like to hear a conversation on some other questions. You can also leave your questions on the website. Again, that's earlychristiantexts.com.